Welcome back, everyone. It seems that my producer was able to figure out what the problem was, so let us see if the Master Craig West, in all his broadcast glory, was actually right. Let me see that. Looks right. That looks right. Let's try and see if we can contact our guest this hour, John Springer. That's two ringy-dingies.
Hello.
Hello, John. Rob McConnell, the X-Zone Radio Show. How are you, good sir?
I'm doing well.
John, we tried calling you, but the first time we called, we got this message that you know, it's the person whose number this is doesn't want to accept unknown calls or something to that effect. So we went to a commercial break, and I figured, well, you know, maybe he wants to have his privacy. Then my producer said, let me try something. And he tried something, and here you are. So welcome to the X-Zone, John. Great having you with us.
Thank you very much.
John, tell us a little bit about yourself. I see that you're the elected tree advocate for the executive board of the Florida Urban Forestry Council, and you've just been reelected for 3 years. You've been appointed the director of the Alliance for Spiritual Ecology, is the visionary director for the Fairy and Earth, that's FAE, festivals in Florida and North Carolina, and you've been the co-creator and visionary director for Brigid's?
Yeah, Bridget's Fairy Fair.
Oh,
yeah.
Bridget's, I see. Fairy Fair in Casanega,
Florida.
Wow. Where do you find all this time?
It all ties in with everything else I do, so it doesn't take up that much time. It's like the month of April, I managed to have 2 elf schools and be a master of ceremonies for a festival of angels in 3 different states.
You know, I looked at the information that you sent our senior producer, and number 1 was Fairies, Pixies, Elves. Number 2, weather elements, talking with the weather. Number 3, tree awareness, wisdom, healing, communicating energy. Number 4, walkabout experiences, fairy doors, Merlin eyes, gnome homes, dragons, fairy thorns, spinning the leaves, and waving leaves, pixie encounters, and more. Number 5, boogie busting, spiritual house cleaning, and spiritual releasement. Number 6, cosmic committee meeting and personal alien encounters. Number 7, photographing fairies and nature spirits. Number 8, spiritual bonded intimacy. Number 9, the heart connection, awakening the sacred heart. Number 10, the power of prayers and asking for healing. And you say you still have time?
Oh, yes. Just everything ties in together. I'm working with several Girl Scout councils and teaching them about trees and the fairy realm.
All right. And why don't you educate myself and my audience about trees and the fairy realm?
Well, I'll share with you the 3 things that I tell people before we walk. It doesn't matter what age or anything else. And the first thing, if you see a leaf wave at you, wave back. Chances are the leaf will stop waving. Single leaf. The second thing is, if you see a spinning leaf, you can talk to it. You can get the speed up, slow down, change directions, or stop. And usually you'll do everything you ask it to do. And the third thing is, if the pixies are around and they really like you, they'll put rocks, leaves, or dirt in your shoes or untie your shoelaces. I had one Girl Scout up in Jacksonville for the Gateway Council said, well, I'll show those pixies. And she double tied her shoes. We had 140 girls and leaders in this big circle, and we watched her shoelaces come undone. And needless to say, she was freaking out. And I said, just because you cannot see them does not mean they do not exist.
You know, the folklore is filled with fairies and pixies, leprechauns, the wee people. And this must have come from somewhere, John. I'm sure somebody in an Irish pub somewhere just didn't start making all this up. Well, wait a minute, maybe they did.
Well, they're a reality.
Yeah.
People think they're all illusionary and imaginary, and they're not.
What?
And I remember a show, there was a movie about, a documentary about the elves in Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a reporter going around. This was on the Sundance series channel. And he interviewed this constable. And he said, you know, I could see the elves and the fairies until my testicles dropped. And I couldn't see them anymore. And there's a lot of truism on that, because children are waiting for adults to confirm what they're already seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the times, the adults will deny them what they're experiencing. I had a 12-year-old boy tell his mom, "Mom, I saw a fairy," and she tried to deny him. "Oh, you must be seeing things. You must be on drugs. But you can't be seeing fairies." So she called up her best friend. Her best friend's a friend of mine. She told me about it, and I said to get others there, and it was all boys. And when it came time to show the photos, and one of my photos, I said, "This is like the fairy you saw?" And he goes, "Mom, you need to see this. This is exactly like the fairy I saw." And she looked at it and she goes, "Oh my God, I have to believe now."
Does the typical fairy look like Tinkerbell?
No.
No, eh?
No, but pretty close. I mean, I had one fly up to within 6 inches of my nose when I was sitting in a fairy angel garden up at Terra Nova in Cedar Mountain, North Carolina. And it was in a golden orb, flew within 6 inches of my nose, and I could see a body and arms and legs and wings and everything else, and it's like, oh my gosh. And all she said to me was, "We've been waiting on you," and then took off.
So these fairies actually communicate?
Yeah, and I actually see them as Technicolor fireflies. And when I was in the hospital in 2011, during the day they find feathers on the floor, and at night many nurses would come in and start looking around the room. I said, "What are you looking at?" "You have rainbow sparkles in this room." I said, "You have a child that believes in fairies, don't you?" "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "Because you see the rainbow sparkles." And I see them as Technicolor fireflies. I've seen them in all colors. And the adage is, fireflies blink, fairies do not.
What was it in your life that made you want to pursue the trees, the fairies, the elves, the gnomes, and all the wonderful topics that you talk about?
I don't think I pursued any of them. It's the aspect, and I had mentioned to you earlier that I literally had given myself permission to use more than 10% of my brain. However, my mother said I was raised on a farm in Indiana, and my mother said I used to be sitting on the cows when I was 3 years old. And I do recall calling a red-tailed hawk out of the sky and him landing about 5 feet from me, and I jump into him and fly through his eyes. And I thought everybody could do this until I started school, and I realized I was not from this planet, because nobody knew what the heck I was talking about. And so I've never really read anything about the fairy realm. I've allowed nature and the realms to talk to me.
How has your involvement, your ability to see, hear, interact with the grown-up world of the unseen, if I can call it that?
Well, I think my professional background has helped a lot with that, because my degree is in landscape architecture. My minor is forestry. My master's is environmental education, and my thesis was learning can be fun. And boy, do I have fun doing this. And even the aspect with the Florida Urban Forestry Council, I was approached by 2 members to put my name up for voting as a member at large, which I did. And before I was even a member of the organization, and I showed up at the first board meeting. I didn't get voted in, but they asked me to be an advisor. And I showed up with a top hat on, with a rabbit in it, stuffed rabbit, sparkles in my face, arms, and legs, and wearing a fairy shirt. And they're going, "Who in the hell is this person?" But they didn't have anybody that was involved with children and the education of the children, connecting them to nature and especially trees. When I took out the children of arborists at their annual conference years ago, none of the children knew their trees. These are children of arborists, and arborists are meant to know all about trees.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew we were in trouble, and so that's the Girl Scouts have indicated I've changed their girls and made them all happy campers, because now they talk to everything, they wave at leaves, and they hug trees.
You've been involved with the Boy Scouts for 30 years. You're an Eagle Scout. You earned the William T Hornaday Award for Distinguished Service to Conservation in 1964. You've been involved in the grassroots organizations, as well as let's see, you've got a hands-on when it comes to Mother Nature. How do the trees, how does everything relate to you when it comes to what we're doing to this planet?
Well, what's interesting, and I want to preface with a story here, because a friend of mine's 3-year-old daughter told her mom, people are not hearing the new language of the earth. She said, what are you talking about? She said, the trees are talking, the flowers are talking, the birds are talking, the wind's talking. All of nature is talking. No one is listening. Part of what I do is get people to hear the subtle voices of nature and to connect with it and to feel that connection. One of the exercises I was asked to be a presenter for the League of Environmental Educators of Florida several years ago. And I didn't know how to tell the director what I did, because he was a principal of a Christian high school in Lakeland. And so when a little voice in my ear kept saying, just tell him. And I finally just took a deep breath and I said, I point out Merlin's eyes, faces, dragons, the whole realm of things. And there was silence on the phone. He goes, oh my God, we have been looking for you. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he goes, we're looking for someone that incorporates imagination and creativity into the science of nature. We are losing teachers and students because they have lost their joy connection to nature. They've lost their connection to it. So he originally wanted me to do 7 walks in 4 days. Mm-hmm. And I told him I want to be alive by the end of the weekend. But I did 4 walks and walked with 80 teachers. And the most common statement I heard from those science teachers was that they realized they were only teaching the science of nature, but not how to connect to nature. Mm. And I put these teachers between trees they could not touch and say, put your hand out to one tree, your hand out to the other tree, and just close your eyes and stand there. And within a minute, they could feel their hands tingling, getting hot, pulsating, but they were feeling that connection. It was amazing. They were shocked. They were so disconnected. One teacher said she never felt a oneness to anything until she walked with me.
I don't want this to sound totally wrong, but what advantage would we have by connecting with trees, by touching trees, by communicating with nature? How would that help us?
There's a lot of advantages. In fact, have you ever had a situation that you feel had any pains or stresses in your body?
Oh, definitely.
Well, have you ever gone to a tree and asked the tree to take the pain away?
No, I haven't.
Well, I'll give you an example with that. My wife came home one day. She was very, very stressed. And I said, what's your pain level on a scale of 1 to 10? She said, it's an 8. Mm-hmm. I said, go out and talk to our tree. We had a double oak tree in front of her house.
Right.
And I said, make sure you thank it and before you ask. And she went out and thanked it for providing shade and shelter and homes for the squirrels and birds and protection. And then said, oh, by the way, could you please take this pain and stress from my body? And she leaned against the tree and came back in smiling about 10 minutes later and said, so what's your pain level?
Wow.
It's 1/2 of 1. I said, good, that's your stuff. You can deal with it.
I will tell you something.
The tree took her pain away, and she thanked the tree for that.
I will tell you something. I love gardening. I love plants. Our home has live plants in it. Outside, we've done landscaping. I've planted trees, shrubs. I touch and I talk to them, but I never knew that they could actually take pain away.
Yeah, in fact, just a further footnote with the tree is that on a tour of North Carolina, she was stressing in the car because we were in the car so much, and I said, tune into the tree back home and ask the tree to take the pain away, and she did, and the tree took the pain away. Once you establish a relationship with the tree, you're forever connected to that tree.
Fascinating. Now,
too, just a footnote on flowers. If you talk to a flower and thank the flower and love the flower and tell how beautiful it is and how wonderful it is, and ask it to release more fragrance, most of the time it will.
I love touching plants. For some reason,
you got to talk to them.
Yeah, I do, believe it or not. And you can ask my wife. She thinks I'm a little strange. She says, you talk to people who talk to aliens and you talk to plants. I said, I've been doing this for 24 years, honey. You're not going to change me now. But I get a certain feeling of happiness. And now that I'm talking to you, there is a connected feeling when I touch my plants or I'm working in the garden. We've got neighbors who've tried everything they can to get their tomato plants to grow and prosper, their trees, and they have one heck of a time, and yet our property, it just blossoms. And my wife said, that's because you've got a green thumb. And I'm saying, okay, thanks a lot. I'll get to the lawnmower now. But, you go to grocery stores, and this is a true story, my friend. I was in a grocery store many years ago, and I was watching this little old lady. She had to be near 80, and she was putting her hands just above the vegetables. And I was watching her, so finally, after about 5 minutes, I went over and I said, excuse me, ma'am, can you tell me why you've got your hand over the vegetables? She said, well, of course, I'll be glad to, because I can feel the life force. And I looked at her, and I kind of figured, okay, what home did she escape from? She took my hand and she said, try. So she held my hand about a foot above. They were melons. And she says, now slowly. She said, do you feel anything under your hand? I said, no. She said, now slowly, ever so slowly, bring your hand closer. And I started feeling it tingling on the bottom of my hand. And as I got closer, it was like there was this force that I could feel. She said, that is a fresh melon. She took me over to one that she wouldn't buy, and she said, now do the same thing. And I did it, and I'm bringing my hand down, 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 down. And just as I'm about a quarter of an inch, I could feel something. She said, that. She said, what are you feeling? I said, well, there's something there, but not like on the other melon. And she said, that is life force.
You got it.
So I don't find this...
See, everything is of creation. Everything is of God. That's why we got to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. In fact, there was a show on TV the other day. My wife watched it. She was kind enough to record it for me. I just haven't had time to watch it yet. It was from a professor in Alberta who has made a connection that trees actually communicate to other trees and other plants through their root systems.
That's right.
So all this information is coming out. People are saying, hey, wait a minute, there's more to what we are looking at than just trees, cut them down, use them for lumber, and if another one grows, good. If not, who cares, right? But we're talking about another life form.
Yep. And trees don't need us, but we need trees.
I would even go one step further. We need Mother Nature. Mother Nature doesn't need us.
That's correct.
Look what we're doing to this planet. It's a crime. We're polluting our air. We're polluting our water. We're polluting our seas. We're raping the planet of its natural resources. We're taking so much crude oil out of the earth, what I believe is hydraulic fluid, that the that the earthquakes are increasing because of the stress of the two tectonic plates that don't have that little bit of hydraulic fluid called oil, causing more friction than before. So what do we do about it? You know, you and I we're talking. Hopefully other people will start listening. Hopefully more people will go to your website. But we, as John and Rob and the members of the Exo Nation, we're a start. We're a start. But how do we take it to the next step, John?
Well, it's acknowledging, it's acknowledging the life force or the God force and everything. It really does make a difference when you start doing that. And the energy of love, and that's how I can talk to the weather. I talk to weather all the time.
Tell me about that, John. I was very interested when you and I had the opportunity of talking the other day, and you were telling me what you do, and you mentioned you talk to weather.
Yep.
Tell me about this.
And it's like, interesting enough, there's a lady that I just recently connected with in California, and she was bemoaning the fact that they'd been in a drought for 4 years. And I said, ask for gentle, soaking rains. Do not ask for lots of rain. You ask for lots of rain, you'll get flooding rain. And unfortunately, in some areas of California and Nevada, they've gotten flooding rains because people have been praying for lots of rain. So she requested in her area gentle, soaking rains. And sure enough, for the last 3 days, they have had gentle, soaking rains.
Food for thought.
Even when we had the tropical storm Faye come through town, and I knew I could talk to it because it was named after a fairy, and I literally gave it marching orders where to go. And I said the Everglades needs water, Lake Okeechobee needs water, and come all the way up the state and then make a sharp left turn. And the farmers in Georgia and Alabama need rain. When you get to Pensacola, make a sharp right turn and go up to Lake Lanier and then go to North Carolina and Virginia. And they said it was the longest running tropical storm they've ever seen. It made landfall to Florida 5 times. It stalled in one particular place because my friend in Brevard County, Melbourne area, kept saying, "Oh, we need lots of rain." And I argued with him for quite a few minutes, and I said, "Okay, you got your request. You're going to have lots of rain." After 32 inches of rain fell in Brevard County, in that I called him up and I said, "Are you trading water with your lots of rain?" He goes, "Now I understand what you're talking about." Because where we were at, it was gentle soaking rain during the entire process. And you can split storms, you can cut the tops off storms. I had a friend of ours call us up and said, "You need to hunker down. There's a bad storm. It's purple on the radar." And so immediately my wife's putting up an etheric dome over our property in our town, and I'm doing the same thing. And we watched it on radar, and it hit the dome and disappeared. And the weather announcer is going, "Something wrong with my radar. The storm was right here." And he couldn't find it. And so it was really interesting when we can watch it.
I would imagine so. John, you and I have to take a short commercial break. Please stand by.
Okay.
Exo Nation, John Springer is my special guest. www.enchantedwalkabouts.com is his website. He's also on Facebook at john.springer.161, Enchanted Walks, Fairy and Earth Festival, and a couple of other websites and Facebook sites that we'll give you when we come back from this commercial break.
But keep in mind, it's Enchanted Walkabouts with an S.
Enchanted Walkabouts with an S. You're right?
Yep.
Thanks, John. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with John Springer. Don't go away. Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com.
Nita Hickok is an expert in exorcisms, psychic warfare, soul healing, angelology, soul retrieval, demonology, energy healing, long-distance healing, astral healing, and much more. Nita is an interfaith minister because she believes all gods and goddesses are valid and that they are part of one divine force that is incomprehensible to us who are incarnated upon this earth. Nita has been doing astral healing, distant healing, spirit release, exorcism, house cleansing and blessings, soul restoring and revival, psychic vampire removal and curse removal, and much more for over 40 years. For more information or to contact Nita Hickok, visit her website at www.astralhealer.com. That's www.astralhealer.com.
Fartlets, fartlings, pongies, and honkers. They have so many names, makes you go bonkers. Rear tempest, butt bubbles, bottom burps, all aside. Why does it smell like a little rat died? Hail the fart, whenever, wherever, whoever. Its existence actually enriches our lives because it gives us those unforgettable moments that we can all recall again and again that are always good for yet another laugh. A new expose on farting. Get your copy of The Endearing Fart by Eileen Dover at www.theendearingfart.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
I went to a garden party to reminisce with my old friends. A chance to share old memories and play our songs again. When I got to the garden party.
Welcome back, everyone. John Springer is our special guest this hour. www.enchantedwalkabouts.com. And John, great having you with us. I would just like to share your bio with our listeners. This is a bio that John sent us. I am a landscape designer painting the world with plants. I am a channeled healer using guided love energy. I am a group leader facilitating meetings and retreats. I am a lover of humanity demonstrating unconditional love. I am an environmentalist awakening humanity to its role. I am a Lightworker networker connecting the family of light. I am a spiritual awakener, guiding those seeking wisdom. I am a mirror and facilitator, reflecting the true nature of self. I am a friend and counselor, listening with love and trust. I am a student of the universe, seeking to become one with all. I am John S. Springer. I am Eshalom Samuel. I am an earth angel. I am peace. I am love. I am joy. I am. Doing this show for 24 years, my friend, this is the best bio I've ever read.
Oh, thank you.
So tell me, how can we all get on board? How can we all make a difference? You know, we've got people in high places who, instead of having their head stuck in the sand, they have their head stuck up there. Well, let's not go there right now.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
After listening to your commercial and farts, let's not go there.
That's a great book. It makes you laugh, and I think this is what the world needs, is more laughter. Either that or more Donald Trump. I'm not sure which needs more.
Right.
But, you know,
you
must find it so... Yeah.
There's an exercise I have to share with you that I mentioned briefly in my bullet points, and that is called the heart connection.
Mm-hmm.
And the heart connection was gifted to me on August 8th in 1991. And I was told by a lady friend of mine I was supposed to lead this meditation group. It was basically the who's who of psychics, readers, and ministers in Jacksonville. And it was like, why me? And so I led them through this. There was ocean behind us, and many of them said they could feel this energy upon their heart center for more than 2 weeks. And 2 days later, I shared it with a group in a place called Paradise in St. Petersburg. It had 40 tons of calcite crystal in their backyard. And there was 47 people there, and I did this heart connection meditation with them. And afterwards, they were doing announcements. I said, stop, look up. There was so much light in the yard, it illuminated the clouds above the yard, and all the clouds had turned into hearts.
Wow.
And this has happened numerous times, and it's a very, very simple exercise. And you can use either hand, left hand or right, and you put it up as high as you can on your chest, like you're cupping the thymus. The thymus is that depression at the base of your neck. And and I'll do the same. And you take 5 long, deep breaths, and that's all you have to do. Take 5 long, deep breaths, and I'll breathe with you. You want to do it?
Sure, I'm doing it now with you.
Let's do it.
1. Okay, 5 deep breaths.
You should be feeling a warming sensation between your hand and your heart.
I am.
In doing so, you've ignited the flame of God within you. You've awakened the Sacred Heart. You've seen drawings of Jesus and Mary, and it shows their Sacred Heart in this exact same location. Everyone has the Sacred Heart. It is through this point we can truly communicate with all realms of God, seen and unseen. This is how we talk to flowers to release more fragrance. This is how we talk to trees to take our pain away. This is how I talk to dolphins to come jump for us. This is how I talk to manatees to come to us. This is how I talk to everything, through the heart. Everybody can do this. It's so simple. And we've seen miracles take place because of this.
What kind of miracles, John?
Well, I'll give you an example. I went into a Catholic church one day. I was directed to go in there because the minister was from Shelbyville, Indiana, and that's where my parents had moved to. Mm-hmm. And the priest gets up and starts talking, and he was being judgmental and critical, and I elbowed my Cosmic sister, and I said, send love to the priest now. We both put our hands to our high hearts and send him love, the other hand towards him. And within a minute, he puts his hand to his high heart, and his words and his voice changed. And it kept his hand on his high heart all the way rested through his sermon. And then after he finished, we disconnected from him. We watched him shake from head to toe. And so I directed her to send to someone during communion, and an altar boy kept his hand to his high heart all the way through communion, and I was on the kneeler blasting everybody to God it. Mm. And then at the end of the service, I put my hand above my head, and my cousin said, "What are you doing? You're in a Catholic church, you know." And I said, "If the test is unconditional, subject's unconditional love, I'm everyone's test." What I didn't know, there was a lady in the back row that I had met with 3 days previous that came running down the aisle yelling out my name. And she was a home care nurse.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client that was always bitching and complaining, never was complimentary, was critical all the time. I gave her the same exercise.
Right.
Said, think of the lady on the way home, before you go to bed, when you get up in the morning on the way to your client's house.
Mm-hmm.
She said the next day the lady was totally different.
Oh, wow.
Totally changed, complimentary, smiling, happy, joyful, because humans have a tendency to put their heart in a box because of all the pain and all the hurt and all the heart stuff and all this, and this works from the inside out. I tell people, do this exercise at least 3 times a day and be the co-creators of the miracles in your life, and because it really works from the inside out rather than from the outside in. And so my cosmic sister saw the priest a few days later, and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "Who is that brother of yours?" She goes, "Why do you?" He did something to our church. And she said, "What do you mean?" "I've never received so many calls. People are feeling different. They want to know, is he coming back?"
Wow.
So we've watched all types of things happen with this heart connection. When I was the director of 5 chambers of consciousness groups covering 30 counties in Florida, we opened up meeting it with the heart connection every time. And when we did so, it brought everybody into oneness. And we operated from the heart rather than from the head or ego.
Which most people operate from.
Difference.
Is that the high heart? Is that the heart light that so many poets talk about?
Probably. It's different from the heart
Mm-hmm.
chakra.
Right.
Now, the emotional heart is between the shoulder blades. It's the only area of the body that most people cannot touch with their palm of their hand. And that's where the emotions of the heart are kept. When we do wing fluffing, and I didn't mention that to you, but my wife and I do wing fluffing. We fluff people's wings, and that we find so many people are blocked in that area between the shoulder blades. And by the way, the shoulder blades represent the parents. Usually left is the mother and the right father.
Mm-hmm.
And the emotions of the heart, most men have heart attacks at point right behind in the backside because they keep their emotions behind them.
Right.
And don't have to deal with it.
Is the wing the shoulder blade?
No. Well, actually, it does come from that general area.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does. The second set of wings are at the base of the spine. The third set is at the ankles. The fourth set's behind the knees, and people have indicated to me that they see a fifth set on top of the shoulders when I'm doing it. And I have aura photos showing my wings.
So wing fluffing, what does that consist of?
We've had levitate.
I'm sorry?
We've had people fly.
No, wait
That's why Patricia has to stand in front of the people because she's the catcher.
Let's just back up here a little bit because I'm not sure if I heard you right. People fly?
Yeah, well, we've had people levitate off the floor when we fluff their wings. That's how angels fly because they take themselves lightly.
So how do you fluff someone's wings?
I have to be there physically to fluff them. I'm looking for people to train, and I do have it all written out in exercise. If anybody wants to email me, I can send them the might say blow-by-blow detailed directions on how to fluff people's wings.
Maybe we should call it flutter by flutter.
Yeah. And it's not only, let me tell you the wings I've encountered.
Sure, please.
I've encountered butterfly wings, dragonfly wings, dragon wings, angel wings, bird wings, and bat wings. The bat wings were really quite interesting. They were very black, and several people saw them.
So what do? Just wing it?
Yeah, just wing it.
No, but how did you... I've never heard of this before. I have never heard of wing fluffing, and you'd think with over 3,600 and some odd interviews, somebody would have mentioned to people, but you're the first.
No, there's not been. There's hardly any facilitators out there. And this was an exercise that Gus gave me. And Gus, by the way, is God, goddesses, guides, and guardians upstairs.
Gotcha.
And I like to have the deity as my friend rather than beyond me. And that's why I refer to it as Gus.
So Gus,
I got this exercise, and it's quite unique. It's very different, and people can feel. I mean, we watch people transform before our eyes when they're doing this, when they're involved, when they get their wings fluffed. I did a group of 38 Hispanics for their Keys of Enoch group. Mm-hmm. We were the only ones that didn't speak Spanish, and we did everyone in the group. Everyone. And the old men were like, oh, yeah, sure, I'm going to feel something. And within a minute, they were feeling something. And we could see their faces change. Everything would change on them. It was just totally amazing. And see, I got jump-started in 1979 by the charismatic hands-on healing group in the Catholic Church in downtown Orlando with healing energy and was infused with Holy Spirit energy.
So let's just step back a few steps here. So you were given this wing fluffing from Gus, who's the big guy upstairs.
Yeah, God, goddesses, guides, and guardians upstairs.
So tell me, why you?
Why not?
Well, what's your connection? What do you know that the majority of us on this planet don't know, or what have you tuned into that we are just too blind to see?
Because so many of us have gotten to be too human. And we've lost the spiritual connection. We've lost, that realization. I mean, I think I picked up something when I stayed in the Zen Buddhist monastery in Kyoto, Japan in 1969. And that's when I traveled Japan with 3 Catholic priests, a Catholic nun, a Baptist minister, a Methodist minister, a Quaker minister, and a Zen Buddhist monk, and stayed in the monastery for a week. And I went as Methodist when I went over there and decided to become Catholic when I got back. I decided to become Catholic. And the priest stood up and put his hands on his desk. It was an older priest in Shelbyville, Indiana, and said, do not get wrapped up into the dogma of this church. Use only what you need to use and discard the rest. And I went, I can do that. And boy, if you look at the word dogma, that's man's interpretation of spirituality. Reverse the word, and you have the true nature of spirituality. Am God.
Yeah.
We're all an aspect of God.
Well, of course we are.
Once we recognize that God energy and everything, we are very connected.
Well, as I was saying in the previous hour, we had an interview with a gentleman that I did in 2003 who claimed to have had the Christ gene, and it makes sense because if you look in the Bible, the book of Genesis, it says, "And God said, let us create man in our image and our likeness." So if we are created in His image, His likeness, then we ourselves are God.
Everything is of God.
Yeah.
Everything's got the creative force. Everything's got the creative energies within it. It's amazing what we're missing out on. If we had acknowledged, we should have listened to the Native Americans. My previous lifetime, about 900 years ago, was during that time period of the Native Americans. I know exactly where I was at. I remember standing on a mesa in Sedona and pointing to the southeast and said, my village is near. And it was. It was discovered a month before I was in Sedona in 1990.
So tell me, why did you travel to Japan?
I went over there to study religion and landscapes and do business for my dad in Tokyo.
Wow. They do have beautiful gardens in Japan.
Oh, my gosh, yes. And my minor is interior design, and I wanted to learn small space gardening, which they're very skilled at.
Yes, they are. What is your we've come to the end of this interesting hour with you, John. I want to thank you so much. We're going to have you back on in the future because we still have so much to discuss.
Oh, absolutely.
What is your final message for the X-Zone Nation tonight around the world listening to you?
Realize the God force is in you and everything. Do the heart connection more as often as you can. Feel that connection. Feel the energies of everything is talking. So many people are not hearing the voices. Mm-hmm. It's subtle. It's sweet. It's amazing how much of the world that we're not touching into is wanting us to realize that we are a part of this planet, not separate from it. We want you to do the heart connection to everything. We are amazed by the good fortunes that provide you and the health and everything else. Just trust in it. That's all. Just trust in it.
You know, John, there's a saying that says, "Stop and smell the roses." Well, I added another line to that says, "And stop and listen to the word." Mm-hmm. John, thanks very much for joining us.
I got one other thing, and my wife's acronym for faith: finding an inner truth hidden. Faith, finding an inner truth hidden.
I love it. John, I look forward to the next time you and I meet here in the X-Zone. Until then,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
You. Absolutely.
X-Zone Nation, yeah. John Springer has been our guest. Here's his website, www.enchantedwalkabouts.com. I'll be back on the other side of this news break with some words from our sponsors. As we are going to be... Craig, what are we going to be doing next? We're going to be playing an interview with Michael Luckman about contact in the desert. Michael passed away recently, and this is our way of saying, Michael, thank you for all you've done and for being a member of the X-Zone family over the many years that you were with us. And I believe that Michael Luckman is somewhere up there looking down on us and smiling and saying, you know what? You earthlings still have a chance. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
But now that he had to go away, I still feel the words that he might say.